Frazettagirls' second figure has finally arrived. I now have Teegra and Dark Wolf. And we need to see them. So a while back we talked about Dark Wolf, and I mentioned that I was definitely getting him, and I did. This is Dark Wolf right here. And that's Teegra right there. Why did we not open Dark Wolf? Was it for the same reasons that always happens? That we just kind of got backed up on figures? No, not this time. I was actually putting Dark Wolf off on purpose. I had an assumption in mind that he would be terrific. I'd heard from a couple people that they really liked him, and I said to myself, if they like him, I'm gonna like him. I'm pretty much in on the line. And I waited. Teegra got announced. And I said, fantastic, that's the next one, here we go. Got Teegra. And I said, at that time, if so far we've done Dark Wolf and Teegra, the next figure will most assuredly be Larn. Right? I mean, that's Fire and Ice. That's Larn, Dark Wolf, and Teegra. Teegra being what I would argue is the main storyline point. I would argue it's more Teegra's story than anybody else's. A naive princess, born into power, with no major worries, bored about her life, seeking or dreaming of adventure, until adventure bites her right in the butt when she is captured by the necromancer's people. Then, the rest of the movie is pretty much her escaping her captivity, attempting to escape, meeting Larn, getting put back into said captivity, getting out of it again, winding up at the ice area where she is captured by the necromancer, where she attempts to offer friendship and barter peace, only to have her face spit in and then have to escape that situation. I feel like it's mainly her story. So I would argue that Teegra is the main character of Fire and Ice. The second main character of Fire and Ice, I would argue, is Larn. We meet Larn early in the story. It is his people, at least we know a lot of other people have been destroyed by this, but it's his people that at the start of the movie are destroyed by the advancing ice. And then all the enemies, all the people, I'm not sure what I want to call them, they remind me of the guys from Time Machine. That's what they remind me of, the Morlocks. But I'm not 100% sure what they're supposed to be. They could just be some kind of Neanderthals, or just savages in general. They're masses that can be controlled by the necromancer and his mother as they extend the ice across the region. They all come out. Larn fights for his life. He escapes them. He then moves into the forest. And he's under the impression that he's going to... I'm having trouble remembering the necromancer's name, and I don't know why. I'll admit it's been a couple years since I've seen the movie. I remember I loved the movie. I no longer own it. I remember I had it on DVD, and I lost it. That's the reason I'm struggling. I remember most of the movie, like off the top of my head. But there are certain pieces that I'm having trouble remembering, and his name is one of them. The necromancer, the main guy. Larn decides that he's going to kill that guy. And it is during that course that he ends up running into Teegra. He befriends Teegra, then they get separated. Teegra gets recaptured. He goes to try to save her, and he ends up with Darkwolf. Darkwolf, when he shows up in the story, he's just a badass. He's just an awesome, no joke, gonna end you barbarian, well-trained warrior. And he's really, really, really cool. But we don't really know anything about him other than he wants to kill the necromancer. And that he has the skills to do it. With all this in mind, the more I think about that old movie and the more I remember it, we went Darkwolf first. I understand that. Because you want to sell one of these three characters, Darkwolf is probably the most recognizable of Fire and Ice. He was really cool. But then, you immediately go to Teegra. I'm not complaining about that either. Teegra is cool, and I've argued, just like I just did, that she's the main character of that movie. Then, Frazettagirls reveals that the next figure is not Larn. It's the Norseman from a Frazetta painting. Very cool. In fact, I have already put him on pre-order. You know I did. You know I did. I was immediately like, yes, that, give it to me, thank you. But now I am kind of... Because now I'm hearing also that there's a Conan on the way. That it's already... I already saw it. The demo of that Conan on the SDCC panel. They had a con panel, and I seen it. And I said, oh yeah, that's a good Conan. That's a Conan I want. And depending on how the time scales out, unless they're going to surprise me with him being that complete already to show at the panel, it makes me feel like he's next from this line. Not necessarily that he'll be Fire and Ice, but from the Frazettagirls line. So it'll be Darkwolf, Teegra, Norseman, Conan. Makes you start wondering, are we going to get Larn? Cross my fingers that we get Larn. But I've now talked more than enough about this movie. I used to really love this movie. I used to watch this movie like crazy. Now I can see actual physical 3D representations from that movie, and I can put them on my shelf. That's fantastic. That's what we need to do. Because I'm no longer waiting for Larn, which is the whole reason I put off opening the first one, because I said, I'll wait on Darkwolf until I have all three of them, then we'll look at all three of them. It now seems that I'm going to be waiting a little longer than I had anticipated, so it's time. Let's open them. Well, here he is, Darkwolf, and there's a pre-word on the box by Frank Frazetta. It says, Darkwolf is everybody's alter ego. The son of a bitch will cut your throat on a whim. You don't have to love him or hate him, but you must fear him. You respect him, and you are glad when he is on your side. We don't know where he came from, but you certainly get the impression that he's an old soul who has been living for hundreds of years. He's a legend. He's bred clones of himself. Darkwolf is a mystery in that he's lived many lives. I don't know that any of that was necessarily implied back when I watched the original movie, but it's cool to have his words exactly kind of explaining what Darkwolf is. And I'm impressed right off, okay? There were a couple things that concerned me back when I very first heard that this character was coming out. We're going to address those things right now. One, single joint arms. So the elbows. I was a little concerned about that back when I very first heard about him. But I'm not seeing too much reason to be concerned here necessarily. I'm seeing fairly good movement. So, I mean, yeah, you could argue that the movement could be better with double jointed elbows, but from what I'm seeing, nothing that I need be concerned about. Single joint knees means that these knees are not going to be kicking his own butt, but I don't see that we're not going to be able to enter the kind of poses that we want, right, from a warrior. See, he's got enough right here. He's got the knees, he's got the feet that are going to allow him to move the way we want him. And there's a lot more movement here than I was expecting, in all honesty, especially when the fact that there's no swivel here. But there's a lot in the ball joint, actually. The ball joint is really, really allowing here, which is going to, that's going to make up for a lot of the other issues that we may have seen. And this has a lot of movement, actually. Like a lot of movement up here as well. I'm very impressed with all that so far. He does not look up. He kind of looks down. He will look to the sides. His necklace is independent, so you're going to have to mess with that a little bit. And in terms of changing facial expressions, he did not come with portraits like swappable heads. He came with a different idea altogether, which I have seen before, but he came with little faces. These little faces, they are able to plug in and change his expression. He also came with a whole bunch of hands, like a whole bunch of hands, like all kinds of them, from punching, expression hands, and bow finger hands, because he did come with a bow that actually has a string. That's crazy, but an issue with the string. If you pull this string like crazy, right? If you pull it, pull it, pull it. I know, I've already seen different reviewers talk about it. It loses its tightness. So you gotta be careful, and I've seen a couple of people that have come up with a way to fix it, that they pull it out and they do the extend. That way they can use it, and then what they do is they push these ends down and then kind of rewind the string to kind of recreate the tightness. But the more you play with the bow, it is going to wear out. That's a real string, but not a string that holds, a string that will lose that tautness as you use it. He does come with 3 arrows. And I don't think they go in between the fingers. No, they do not. So it's very much to hold the bow. It's for the effect more than anything else. That will hold the bow, and then I'm not 100% sure how you would get the arrow to stay, unless, is it just big enough to fit? Not sure. I'll have to look and play around with it a little bit to see what I can get out of it. Axe. His axe does have a small issue. This, as far as I am remembering, this axe should be smaller. If this is supposed to be the axe that he killed the necromancer with, and that he fought all the Morlock savage guys, the axe, I think, the handle is too big. And I thought I heard something about that the axe is going to be changed, as well as a variant version of him that's coming out right now, because there is a variant version that's coming out on the market. That variant version doesn't have these cuffs. It has the fur bracers, which is what he actually had in Fire and Ice, the movie, he had like these fur bracers. He didn't have these cuffs. I am fine with him being what he is right now, having these bracers. I personally will not be spending another $80 to get fur bracers and a smaller axe. As far as I am concerned, this is him after the movie. After we moved on from the movie and we have a slightly different life that we're dealing with at that point. Otherwise, I don't see any issues with him, in all honesty. I am curious to try out the face thing. So let me pull the head here. So the head is on just a ball joint. We expected that, to be fair. And if we wanted to go crazy, you can strip him down to the absolute bare bones. The necklace does come off if you feel like you want the necklace off and things of that nature. And all this is an extra piece right here. So you really could just slip that off at any time you wanted and go without, but I'm not about to do that right now. If you want to change his expression, you take the head off, okay? You pull the chin out. I've seen these done. I've never actually had to do them myself. And then if you want the screaming expression, we're just going to put that in there because you put it in, push it up. There it is. No. There. Little tough, but once I figured it out, it worked. And now we have the screaming expression, or we can do the serious expression right here. Just kind of push that into place. It's a little tough, I'll be honest. It's something that I'm not used to doing. I'm used to doing the head swaps. But once I get it, I get it. And it's not really that much of a hassle. It's easily done. There with his grit teeth and everything like that. In fact, I think, just for the sake of, that's the one I'm going to stick with for right now. I just think it kind of makes him look kind of wild and menacing. I like that. Yeah, I got the chin on and everything the way that I want it. And now we kind of got this. See that right there? I just think that looks really cool. I like that a lot. And along with that, I want to change. So if I'm not mistaken, the axe goes in both of his hands. But because this is kind of a cover art version of him. If I'm not mistaken, in fact, we have the box right here. It's a cover art version of him. So we want the hand right here to be a gripping hand. And then we also want the other hand to be a gripping hand right here. And that's what we're going to do real quick because I'd like to see that. So I'm going to pull this hand. And it's pretty simple, just like you would expect. It's the same kind of system as we see with every other figure. They're male hands, male attachments. So put the axe in his hand here. Come on, you're giving me a lot of troubles here. Okay. I'm curious about this in general. What if, you know what? I think I have an idea. I want to see something. Let's put this hand as the grip hand. Okay? Let's do that first off. And then, so we have a grip hand first. And then I want to see something. I want to just do this expression hand here. There we go. So I got the expression hand. And then I'm going to put the axe in his hand down here. His hands give an awful lot of something like this. There. Quick, in real time, we got an action pose. And that, I like to try to do that. I've been trying to make that a thing that I do in every video now. I want to get the idea that just with a slight little bit of messing, we can get dynamic action poses easy from the figures. The more difficult it is to get action poses, I would argue the worse a figure it is. Because the point, an action figure is an art. Like, clear and simple, it's an art. And an action figure needs to be able to display, look good, be balanced, do action poses, and it needs to be not so difficult that it's just basically a statue. If it's a statue, it's too much in one direction, it's not as good. If it's very, very ridiculously flexible, but then looks really goofy when you put it into dynamic poses because the knees and everything open up and you can see all the ball joints, I also think that's too much in another direction. There's a fine balance as to where action figures should be, and I think that this strikes a really good area right now. But let's check Teegra. And here's probably what a lot of people are waiting to see. I imagine that I'm very late to the game when it comes to Dark Wolf, but I expected to be late to the game because, like I said, my initial intention originally was to wait and get all three of them and then talk about what I thought about the line moving forward and how I feel these figures are going to be. And because that didn't quite pan out, we're on Teegra. So, that being said, let's move all of his stuff to the side. One of the things we got with Teegra is we got the cat, okay? Let's get her standing first off. I had her standing earlier. I know she stands there. Okay, so here's the cat. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember the panther's name. I know it has a name, but I cannot remember for the life of me what the panther's name is, and there's a reason. The panther is made to feel like a very important part of Teegra, to the point where they include it in a lot of pictures of Teegra, and they also included it, I mean, they went out of their way to include the panther when they made the figure. They even gave it an extra head so that it had a menacing head alongside its nice head, and it has an articulated jaw so it can stuff like that, right? But believe it or not, and sorry if I'm giving away spoilers for a movie that is impressively old now, but like, if you haven't seen it, go see it. I really do believe this movie is fantastic. But look, the panther died early, to the point where the only thing it did was sit next to Teegra's like lounging bed and then almost immediately get killed. I don't seem to remember the panther killing even one thing. Like, I think the enemies, the Neanderthal guys or whatever, I want to say the savages, they like go in, they climb the walls, go into a room, kill the cat right off the bat, and then take Teegra. And I don't remember the cat even getting one guy. But it is cool that we get the cat. But it is kind of wild to me how much association the cat has been given over the years. And like, it just died fast. It is basically just a slug. It's just a solid piece. Does its tail have a little bit of movement? It looks like its tail has a little bit of movement. So you can get something in here dynamically. And of course it has the different heads for photography purposes. And that's basically what this is going to be anyways, is a photography thing, which is fine for what it's worth. We don't need it to do too much else. Now, Teegra comes with a spear, which is an okay thing right here. It's pretty cool. I don't remember the spear in the movie. Like, I remember the knife. The dagger. I remember the dagger, okay? And I remember the stick, believe it or not. Because for a while she didn't have the dagger. She had like this stick that she was just like a sharp stick. She was just desperate for any way to protect herself. I remember that. I don't remember the spear. And I don't know if I'm just misremembering. It's been a while since I got to see the movie. But anyways, Teegra, let's get a look at her. Here we are. Teegra. Solid face. Very good, actually. That's, to me, that very much looks like Teegra. I think they nailed it. I really do. And we've got very, very good body here, as we would expect from Teegra. Something I'm going to be pointing out as well. We have Teegra's garments, okay? So when she's lying upstairs in the bed and whatnot at the beginning of the movie, she has these flowing garments, which is pretty cool that we got these. And they're a very nice material. They have a ridiculous amount of give, and that's fantastic because it won't restrict anything that we want to do. And then we have like the flap down skirt here, which is really nice. This is cool. I like this quite a bit. But we all know that we want to see Teegra like we've seen her in the movies. So we're going to pop the head here. It's on a ball joint like we expect. We're going to pull this off. And then we're going to, this is a rope here. We're going to pull this down. And I imagine you got to be careful with how often you use this. Because I imagine just like, well, this seems like this is more of a rubber band-esque material. And we could fix this if we needed to. But there we go. So we got this and this. And we've got a smiling Teegra head. Okay? Which is nice. We have a serious Teegra head. Like a very serious stern. That's when she's got her knife when she's got no choice. And then we have the regular Teegra head, which is just kind of a standstill expression. We have two different hairs. One that's more action-oriented. It's kind of like all over the place and the wind is blowing. And then one that's more kind of lays to the body. I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know if it's the lighting or what, but I'm having a lot of trouble with the focus today. But yeah, and it's as easy as there's a hole in the top of the head and you plug them in and it's fine. We have two expression hands that came with Teegra, and we have two gripping hands so that she can actually hold the daggers. And then, of course, we have a different kind of expression hands right here. And for right now, we are just going to pick the standard head for Teegra and put it back on her. Come on, don't fight me here. There, got it back on. The hair has very, very little give. Very, very little give. So it is going to be important to kind of get exactly the kind of poses that you want out of Teegra and go from there. So, let's talk a little bit about Teegra's body here, because we knew we bought a Frazettagirl and that was going to be one of the big parts of it. First off, we have the single move elbow, which we kind of expected because that's what this line is doing right now. Very, very slim arms, but nothing that seems to be working against her. She easily T-poses and things like that. We have a single knee joint, and the knee comes down right here to kind of hide this part of the joint, which is fine. So depending on the kind of poses that we get out of her, we always kind of have the knee that comes down. That's not bad, actually, the way that it's done. There's a lot of ankle rock here. The feet are actually good. Sometimes I see the whole naked feet thing and they're not done very well character-wise, and then sometimes they're done very well, and I guess it just kind of depends. Very nice definition across the actual body here. She looks like a real person, which is nice. We did get, she is busty, but she's busty in a believable fashion. They hang down, they're very much, and you could expect that. That's something that I'm actually praising right now, because Frazettagirls were real looking. They were real women. He didn't shy away from making very beautiful women, but they very much had real bodies, and we are seeing this in the Teegra figure as well. They respected that concept. They didn't go back and like try to give her like extra body and things like that. She looks the way she's supposed to look as far as I am concerned. And then they did this. So first off, she might have the best butt on the shelf. Like, wow. But, ha 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 ha, here, this is something they did that I wasn't expecting. The butt, now this is something that might be considered a bit of a problem though, see? They decided that in order to keep the butt what they wanted it to be, they made the panty line that comes down, that is where the break of the character is. And I know there's almost no way to do this. I know that this was going to be a challenge to begin with, to get us something like this and have it stick, but like, because of that, if you do shots from behind, okay, like if you do any photography from behind her, you will get this, but you got to be careful about just how far you want something to go. Like if she's going to be stepping up onto something, you kind of have to watch how you get the angles played out and everything. Like, see, there I was able to do it. I was able to kind of put it back into place where I could hide the seams, because if you don't, if you just move the leg up, you get this very open bracket here, and you can very blatantly see. So this was both a good idea and a necessary evil, we'll call it, because it is going to make it difficult to get certain kinds of shots from Teegra, from Teegra from the back. It's going to make some of those poses a little more difficult than they needed to be. But up front, we have the same kind of movement that was going on with Dark Wolf, and that is a major plus. This was going to be a hard character to nail, no matter what we did, if you want the truth of it. Because unlike other characters, Teegra is basically naked. Now, I want to see these two characters alongside two other characters before we move on. This is what I was curious of. These are some of my fantastic barbarians, okay? So I have Red Sonja, which is easily the biggest of all of them. The executive replica Red Sonja that they did, the loose collector, is big. I mean, she's super tall for her scale. Supposedly, all of these are scaled 1/12. And Sonja is just large. Like, she very much fits the Motu scaling. But she's, like, bigger than everybody else, as you can see by King Conan over here. And it's fine for Conan to have Dark Wolf be bigger than Conan. So this is Conan, King Conan from Mezco, and he scales right alongside Dark Wolf, and Dark Wolf seems to be a little bit bigger. I have him in an action pose right now, which makes him a little bit smaller, or puts him right on par. But as you're seeing, it scales well. These work, and they look like they could easily do photography pieces together. I changed her hair out so that we could get an idea of Teegra with the hair, and put her next to the cat and everything so you could see what everybody looks like. And I tell you, I'm very much looking forward to the epic Red Sonja, because I'm very curious if that's going to fix some of the issues that I'm seeing with the scaling for Red Sonja. As I have trouble kind of scaling her in and fitting her alongside different figures. But these are the barbarians all together. I have a lot of other barbarians, to be fair, but I was curious how she would scale alongside, say, Conan, and she's the littlest bit smaller than Conan, not by much, and Dark Wolf is easily bigger than she is, and Dark Wolf is bigger than Conan is, but that's fine, because there were people bigger than Conan in both the books and the comics, and Red Sonja is just huge. She's straight up Amazonian in every single one of these that I do. And that adds Fire and Ice, Teegra, and Dark Wolf to the shelf. Now, I have issues here and there. Not huge ones, but issues nonetheless. Some of the things that I would definitely like to point out is the hair on Teegra needs a lot more give. Like, I'm going to fight with it a little bit and see if I can't give it to give me a little bit more give. But, like, it needs a lot more give. She's got to have more give in the hair. And look, you could say that this is something that we expect from female figures, but actually at this point, I would argue it shouldn't be anymore. Look, recently, we have seen a massive increase of quality in areas for female hair. Quite specifically for hair that we're seeing in, like, the Street Fighter line. Jada nailed it with getting the hair to give us all the give we need. And that should become a standard from this point moving forward in a lot of figures. So I am going to be calling out when I see issues like that. But other than that, she is very, very good. Like, I don't know that I could have asked for better without damaging the sculpt that we wanted. And I would also say that's true for Dark Wolf. Dark Wolf could have been better in certain instances. It is true that I would have preferred the double knees. I would have preferred the double elbows. I like those. I like the double jointed ones more than I like the single joint elbows and whatnot. But I think that once I get out there and I start getting pictures with these and everything, I don't think that it's going to matter much. I really don't. I don't think that it's going to cause me any real grief. I think that I'm going to get good pictures from these guys. And in the end, that's what I bought them for, was for photography projects. I have a couple of ideas in mind that I want to play around with, and who knows, maybe I'll come in here and talk about them as I do them. But for right now, I have added Teegra and Dark Wolf to the shelf, and they are very, very solid figures. I'm going to get out of here. I have spoken. Take what you will.